Hello, 6. Hello guys, welcome back to another one of my streams. This isn't going to be a particularly long one. Basically, I've been really getting back into F1 2021 recently. I'm going to do another stream after this, when I'm going to do the first 3 races of a season, which I'm going to do. So, look forward to that. Might be a bit boring for you guys, but I'm going to enjoy it, so I hope you guys do too. But anyway, I am going to go through all of the tracks that are in this game. This is F1 2021, not the second one. But I'm just going to go through all of, or F1 2022 I should say. I'm going to go through all of these tracks and I shall tell you my rankings of them and why I put those rankings. Starting off with the season opener for last season was Bahrain. Bahrain is a great track. I think we all know that by now. That it's a really good track, not just in the sense as it's quite a big track. It's quite long. I like the straights. The first straight is great, and so is the second one with the DRS zone is. The acute left-hander is an interesting turn because if you overshoot that, you could lose a lot of time on it. And the first turn is also hands down, probably one of the best turns in one of these tracks. Although I will admit, the DRS zone in the very centre of the track, going across after the acute left-hander, if I were the FIA who made this, I would have moved it to that final straight going down. So you've got like the first straight where the starting line is, the second straight, and then the final bit, straight after the turn. I can't remember what turn it is off the top of my head, but down that straight, I would make that a DRS zone, but even at that, we still have overtake mode, which can work as well. So overall, I give Bahrain a 6 because it could be improved on with a couple of extra wee bits. For example, they could have made it so that it's a bit low. I mean, I know it's already a long circuit, but I think there's a couple of things that they could have made a wee bit. Like, for example, the bit heading into the acute left-hander, they could have done another wee turn in that bit, like a chicane or something, like straight down into a wee chicane then down. That would have been interesting actually. I would have liked something like that. But next up we head over to Imola for round 2 of the championship. I'll just use this now, it's easier. Imola. A very historical track with Ayrton Senna and everything that happened then, but very historical track, and it is quite a good track. I do enjoy a good race on Imola, but it is quite a basic track. There isn't much to it. It's usually just straight, chicane, turn, straight, turn again, chicane, turn. That's basically the whole track. It hasn't really got anything interesting to it, and it only has one DRS zone, so sometimes there's a wee bit of a struggle to find places to overtake unless you dive bomb down corners, which isn't the best idea. So overall, I'll give Imola a rating of 5. It's not the best track, but I do enjoy a good race on Imola, but there's a lot I like more than it. Next up is Portugal. I love Portugal. I love this circuit. It's a great track, especially that uphill section straight down into the turn up again. That is great, and the corners, they just go. It flows so smoothly, and that final sector is great as well. I just think Portugal is a great track, so 7. Then Barcelona, Circuit de Barcelona. It's also quite a good track, but I'm not really sure if it's one of my... I do like it a lot, and Portugal and Barcelona are very similar tracks. Like, they're quite similar, although there is one wee nitpick I will have with Barcelona. That final chicane is killer. That final chicane is hell. I do not like that final chicane. But overall, great track. Also, I should have probably said that I am ranking this off of how I would drive the track, not on actually watching the race. That's just how I'm ranking this. But anyway, Spain, it's another really good track. I do really enjoy the Spanish Grand Prix, and it is Carlos Sainz's home race, so it is a really good track. Overall, Spain and Portugal are very good tracks, so I'm ranking them the same. Oh ho ho, we come to this track. Monaco. This track sucks. And I'll say it as many times as I can. This track is so bad. Monaco is really bad. And as watching it, it is the most bore down track ever. There is nothing good about Monaco. One DRS zone, the tunnel section is hell to drive through. The hotel chicane, not chicane, hairpin. The hotel hairpin is absolutely a destroyer. That can mess a race up easily. And most of the turns are just very, very tight, like right or left-handers. They aren't really that good. So I just think Monaco is a really bad track, so I'm rating Monaco 2.5, which I will already say out of all of this, it's the lowest rating I've gave a track. It's 2.5, other than another couple of tracks we'll get to later. But next up is Azerbaijan. Arguably, except one other one I'll give an exception to, Azerbaijan is one of the best street circuits out there. The castle section is so beautiful, and the first sector is really good. As much as it is quite a simple, it isn't. I wouldn't say it's a very hard track. I know it says very hard. I wouldn't say it is very hard, but it can be tricky at times. It's another one of those tracks where you need a high-speed, high-downforce setup on your car. If you don't have a good high-speed, high-downforce setup, you might not get anywhere really. So overall, the best street circuit in the F1 Championship, Azerbaijan, I'm ranking this at a 9. Then we move on to Canada and Montreal. Another great track, another really, really good track. I enjoy Canada a lot, but I think it could have a couple more tweaks in there, except just straight section, hairpin. And chicane, straight section, small turn, chicane. Straight section, chicane. Hairpin, straight section, chicane. It's just quite, basic, I would say, but it is a very fun track to drive, and with all the DRS zones and all the overtaking spots, it makes this a really fun track to drive. So overall, I'm going to rank Canada a 7.5. Moving on, we have France, Circuit Paul Ricard. This track is also not that good. It's just an absolute snooze fest. Nothing interesting happens. Very little overtaking spots. As much as there is 167 different ways that they can do this track, I just don't think this track is that good. Other than a couple of wee bits which can be interesting at times, which is only the starting straight and sometimes the hairpin at the back of the track. I think those can sometimes be interesting because people can try and go down the inside of it, but other than that, I don't think it is. So I'm rating this track a 3. Next up, we move on to Austria and Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. Now, as much as this is my favourite team's home race, not the home race, this is my favourite team's track, Red Bull. This track, it's an interesting track. With the uphill braking zone into turn 2, it is a really, really good track. And yes, I'm calling that turn 2, but it's actually turn 3. The wee twink in the straight just does not count as turn 2. But anyway, turn 2. Turn 2 it's a good uphill braking zone, but it can also be quite risky at times, because if you go over that inside barrier even a little bit too much, you're going to spin. So it is quite an interesting track, but it's just a really simple track. Not much to it really. It's a really simple track, but it's still a really, really good. It is still quite a good track. So I'm gonna rank Austria a 6. It could be a bit more complicated with maybe an added chicane or something on not the second straight. I would say the straight leading into the final 2 turns would be quite a good bit. Just pop a wee so that you see this final bit on Monaco where it goes down into this turn and then back out again. I think that would be quite good on that bit, just in there then down again. I think that could be quite good, but other than that, I'm rating Austria a 6. Next up, we move on to Britain and Silverstone. I've been to this track in real life, and I will say, as much as I almost missed a massive crash in the Grand Prix, which would have been cool to see, I don't particularly like Silverstone to drive. Abbey is such an annoying corner, and so is Turn 2, which I forget the name of. I only know Abbey, Luffield, Maggots, and Beckett's. And there's the Hangar Straight, the Wellington Straight, and Hamilton Straight. But Abbey and the other corner that's there are hell if you don't see if you even turn a split second too late, you're probably going to go off it. So the Silverstone circuit, it's a good circuit, don't get me wrong, as much as in the middle of slap fuck nowhere. It's a good circuit, but I mean, bear in mind most of these circuits are in the middle of nowhere, except street circuits. But this circuit it's an interesting track, but I'm probably going to put it as an 8 because I will say I'm not a particularly big fan of Silverstone to drive, but it is only it's like 4 tons that it is actually counted as. It's Maggots and Beckett's. It's absolute hell to go through that. You don't get the right downforce, you're probably going to go into the barrier. You have the right downforce, you turn a bit too late, you're done. You brake too late, you're done. It's just annoying. It's quite an annoying bit, and if you mess up, you can lose a lot in that section. But it's another one of those high-speed, high-downforce tracks, so it can be fun, but at the same time, it can just kill you. And just to say, Max Verstappen did almost die on this track, so yeah. I'm going to rate Silverstone an 8 though. Next off, we move into the Hungaroring, or Monaco without the barriers. This track is kind of a snooze fest for driving. Just nothing fun happens on it. It's just straight, turn, then straight again. Then it goes into a couple of other turns and a couple of chicanes. There is a wee bit which is quite interesting, which is the last couple of turns. It goes into the tight right-hander, which looks like Baku, then straight into the final hairpin, then another hairpin straight after it. It's quite fun, that section, I will admit, but again, you're really close to the pit wall, so if you get a bit too close, you could hit your wheel off that, and that will ruin your race. But overall, it's an okay track, but it's not one of those tracks that I'm jumping the gun on to try and race on. But I'll race on it if I would have to. So I'm going to rate Hungary a 5, just a middle kind of track. Next off, we move to Belgium, or Spa-Francorchamps. This track is the best track, in my opinion. This is one of the best tracks on the calendar. On my rankings, it is the best. But this track is just such a great track. I can just pray, whoever designed this track, this is the best track. Keep it like this. This is the best. You go straight into that sharp turn, then straight up the 100-metre incline or something, and then you go straight into the next couple of corners. It matches so well, and it's such a long track that just makes it so much fun to drive. So overall, I'm going to rate Belgium a 9.5. I can praise this so much. I can praise this track so much. As much as there's only there's only 2 DRS zones in them and they're basically right after each other, this track is a really great track. I love Belgium to bits. And we move on to Zandvoort in the Netherlands, the Dutch Grand Prix. This track, it's a cool track, don't get me wrong, but there's very little spots to overtake. Like, that starting straight is basically it. The whole thing is just turn after turn after turn. There's no spots to overtake on. And that final, I will admit though, that final banked corner is really fun to drive around. I do really like that track. I do really like that corner a lot. So it's annoying because this is my home. This is my favourite driver's home race, Max Verstappen. So I just really wish this track was a wee bit better with a couple of more overtaking spots and DRS zones. But overall, I'm going to rate this track a 4 out of everything. It was a hard decision, but I don't think it is as good as it could be. I think it could be better. I'm going to move over to Monza, the other Italian Grand Prix. Now, Monza I've actually rated below Imola. I've put it as a 4, and the reason being is because I think this track is a lot more simpler than, well, it is more simpler than Imola. It's just straight, chicane, turn, straight, chicane, turn, right-hand turn, straight, chicane. Then another straight, and then another turn. It's just such a simple track with only 11 turns. It just isn't the best track to be racing on. I'm not a huge fan of this track. I wouldn't really choose to race on this track. I would probably replace it with, and I know this is an unpopular decision, but I'd probably replace it with Sochi. I love Sochi. I just really enjoy Sochi. I really like racing on it. But anyway, over to the next couple of tracks, which are actually tracks that I quite like. So it was on Russia. So yeah, I'm gonna rate Monza a 4. I'm gonna move over to Sochi, the Russian Grand Prix. I know we're probably never going to be coming back to Sochi again, which is fine because watching the race on it is kind of boring. But let me tell you, racing on this track is a complete other story. Racing on this track is really good. I love racing on Sochi. It's a high downforce, high speed track with a lot of just right hand corners. It reminds me of Baku a bit, but if Baku was on steroids. That's what this reminds me of. It's such a fun track in my opinion, just to race on. Those first couple of corners, turn 2 or 3? I think it's turn 3. That massive turn, the high speed turn, it is really fun to go through. Then straight onto a braking zone for the next one is just such a great section. I love Sochi. Sochi's a really fun track, and it's really sad that we're not racing on it all because Putin started World War II. Or World War III, I should say, but yeah. Then we move on to the next one, which is Singapore, which for the Marina Bay circuit. This is another great track. I love Singapore, and this is why I said there's an exception for one of the best street circuits. This circuit is great. I love Singapore. There's only one section which I'm a bit pissed about, and it annoys me all the time, it's the bottom turn. What turn is it? I can't remember. I still can't believe there's 23 turns on this. It's like one of the longest tracks besides Saudi, but I don't even think Jeddah has that many turns. Oh, it has way more. Never mind. But basically, I like this track a lot. Singapore is a fun track. Just with that first sector, every sector is amazing, but the third sector, in my opinion, is the best out of them all. I'll just love that bit going through the grandstands and stuff. It's just such a fun track. I really enjoy Singapore. We'll move over to Japan. Japan is... I'm not a huge fan of Japan. I know this is a bit controversial, but I don't really like Japan that much. In my opinion, it's just... I don't know if it's just that this track is really hard for me. It's like Maggots and Beckett's. Just that first turn and then straight into that bit, which is exactly like Maggots and Beckett's, is just so annoying to get through without going off the track. And it's quite a hard one, but my childish brain will always still remember that I love this track because it's a figure 8, but yeah. I love this track. It's such a nice track. So then we move over to Circuit of the Americas. This track is just, let's play a game of how many tracks can we steal from other tracks. How many bits can we steal from other tracks? And the first sector is from Silverstone. If I'm getting that right, I hope I am, because I'm just going to annoy every single F1 fan out there that likes this. The second sector is from Hungary, and the third sector is from something else, which I can't remember, so I'm just being dumb at this point. But anyway, it just steals stuff from other tracks, and just the bit with Maggots and Beckett's again really pisses me off sometimes. So it's a cool track and all, and I like watching it when we're racing on it. It's such a fun track to race on, but unfortunately it's just not the best for driving on, unfortunately. So, oh wait, I've not even been doing these ratings, hold on. Russia, I rate Russia an 8. Singapore is an 8.5 and Japan is 4.5. So moving on to the next track after USA, I rate USA a 5. Right, and we're on to Mexico. So Mexico, this track is another really good track. I really enjoy the circuit, but I think it's another one that's just quite simple again. So it's just, I don't really know how to rate this one. It's just, I know this track is such a fun track and everything, and it is a fun track to race on, but it's quite simple, and I like quite harder tracks than Mexico. Although that final couple of turns are really good though, those final few turns, which is really good. I like all those turns at the end there. But next up, so I'm going to rate Mexico a 6. I just think it is a really good track, but it could be a bit better. And then we move on to Brazil, in Sao Paulo. So I love this track. I really, really love this track. Not Mexico, Brazil. The Brazil track is a really great track. I keep forgetting what it's called. Anyway, it's a really cool track, and I like all the turns in this. There's not one thing I think should be changed about this track. It's not like the best track ever, obviously, but it is still a really great track. So please, Formula One, keep racing on this track. I really enjoy Brazil, and keep doing it. It's really fun to watch as well because of how many laps there are, and we can never forget that the 2018 incident with Ocon and Verstappen, can we? But basically, I'm just going to rate Brazil a 7.5. Great track, really good. And we move on to something else. Albert Park. Albert Park has always been a bit shit. Nothing really special about it, always boring, too many laps, it's just a boring track really. There's nothing special to it, and it's got a lot of laps, so I think it could do with a bit of work really. I know with the changes for this year have made it so it's not as shit. With a whopping 4 DRS zones now, we now come into a really, really sharp braking zone going about 200 mile an hour, which is going to be interesting to say the least for the next race, because I missed out on the Australian Grand Prix, which I think we've already done. I watched the highlights, but I'm not sure what happened. I didn't watch it. Really, I didn't. I was doing stuff that weekend when it was on, but yeah, I think I don't really like this track very much. It's just boring, really. So I'm gonna rate Australia a 4, and we move on to Saudi Arabia, one of F1's shiny new venues, which is it's a very tight circuit. It's basically, in my opinion, it's a mix between Silverstone, Hungary, Canada, and what was the other one? Canada and Azerbaijan. It's a mix between all of them to make something which is basically this. And the first couple of turns are from Monaco. The next few sections are from Silverstone into the bit which looks like Luffield. Then the rest of that section looks like it's from Brazil or Mexico. Then that final section again also looks, and then that final turn looks like it's from Bahrain. So it's just a bunch of different tracks mashed into one thing. So I just think it works. It really works. So then we move on to the final one, which is my rating for Saudi. I rate Saudi a 9. It's a great track. I love racing on Saudi. Then we move on to the season finale of Abu Dhabi. This track is fun. I don't know how else to put it. This track is great. Abu Dhabi is awesome. It's a great finale, as much as my childish brain will always think it looks like a fucking revolver, it still is a great track. It might be quite easy with the Yas Marina circuit. It might be quite easy, but I still think this track deserves a spot on some of my top 10 because it is a absolutely astonishing track. The first section down into turn 1, 2 and 3 isn't really that special. Oh, I'm on. Alright. The first sector into turn 1, 2 and 3 isn't that special. But after that section, the whole thing just turns into something interesting. Like, you got that really sharp bit, which I know they changed, which I'm sad about. I loved that section racing on it. Well, it was quite a dangerous section, but it still looks good. Then heading straight down again into that other turn, then straight down again after that chicane, which looks like from Barcelona, but it's not as bad. Then we come down into one of my personal favourite sectors from an F1 track, which I think is sector 2 if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look at it again, but I'm sure it's sector 2 is my favourite. So I just think Abu Dhabi is a great track. So I'm going to rate Abu Dhabi an 8.5. And then we come to another one of these tracks, which isn't actually on that, which is China. It's still an F1 track, so it wasn't in the 2021 season, unfortunately. But it is still, I want to rate it, so I'm going to rate it on racing again, as I've done with all these. But basically, China is interesting, because if you're playing, for example, like I am right now in my playthrough of this, I'm on season 4 and I'm playing Mercedes in my driver career, and I tried to do this track, and just like, no, I'm on season 3, sorry, but that first corner, you need so much downforce, and even with maximum downforce, it is so hard to get through that without going off the track. And those other couple of corners in like the middle of the track are a pain. And that final bit before, not the, what's it called, the third and fourth final turns are like really, really annoying to get through too, because it's off camber. Well, no, it's not off camber, it's banked. So it makes it a bit annoying at times, but anyway, I'm going to rate China a 7. I would still choose to race on it, but there's a bunch of tracks that go over it. So these are all of my track ratings in total then. Bahrain, Imola, Portugal, Bahrain 6, Imola 5, Portugal 7, Spain 7, Monaco 2.5, Azerbaijan 9, Canada 7.5, France 3, Austria 6, Britain 8, Hungary 5, Belgium 9.5, Netherlands 4, Monza 4, Russia 8, Singapore 8.5, Japan 4.5, USA or Kota 5, Mexico 6, Brazil 5.7, Australia 4, Saudi 9, Abu Dhabi 8.5 and China 7. So that is going to wrap it up for today's broadcast then of my track rankings. I hope you've enjoyed this. Then, for the 28 minutes that nobody's watched it, when I've actually recorded this, but I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have been watching it in the future or something, I hope you've enjoyed it. So, I shall see you guys later. Bye bye, guys. Oh fuck, I pressed the wrong button. Oh shit.